Hurling was a game for the gods, and gods played it.
There's so many things go on in the fastest field game in the world.
You've guys running around the field chasing a ball the size of your fist. And anything can happen.
The game can just change by one puck of a ball being hit 100 yards.
It's a physical game.
You're hit hard, you hit hard. When you go out onto the hurling pitch, you just feel like a warrior.
Above all else, it's a game of skill.
It's very difficult to explain. How can you explain feelings? The thrill of that leather ball hitting off the ash. And that feel from the hurley, it runs up along the handle, into your hand, and really into your soul.
Smack in the middle of the boss, and the ball just soars. You soar with it, and I think in a way you never come back.
That game has given us identity.
It's very close to home. It's very personal.
Runs deep.
And life should be about dreams. If someone is your hero, you dream of being them.
Nobody owns hurling. Hurling just lives.
It's in your heart.
You can't live without it, really. It's part of your pulse, almost.
It's our DNA.
It's part of what we are.
I don't remember starting hurling, really. You know what I mean?
Every day when you'd wake up, your hurley would be beside you, and you'd carry your hurley everywhere that you go.
Well, we were as likely to use them as rifles in a game of cowboys and Indians.
We probably had hurleys in our hands quicker than we had bikes.
And we played on the streets. I can still feel that jar in my elbows when your hurley strikes the concrete on the road.
You had a sponge ball because you could hit the sponge ball 60, 70 yards, and we always had a good dog who would go after the ball and bring it back to you.
Ross was his name, and I used to hit the ball away, and he used to just go and get it. There was dogs trained to go and get the ball, but I was coming in out of ditches getting the ball myself a fair few. But I think that's all part of your apprenticeship.
My dare to dream was being Eddie Kerr. Not knowing who Eddie Kerr was, really. Just hearing about this great man, Eddie Kerr, who was a forward, and I wanted to be a forward. I would have played a lot of hurling matches up against the wall being Eddie Kerr.
And this is Eddie Kerr, and that's the goal!
My hero was Sean Clossie, and my ambition was that when he retires, I would get his place.
It was more a jersey that I got for Christmas. That was my first memory. Another Christmas, I actually got a foghorn as well, and they were special days.
Going to see the matches live was a huge thing. And if you could get a ticket, down by the wire, close to where the players would come out onto the field, You know, to be able to see the size of these men, these huge men.
6'3" and 16 stone, like they're mammoth men.
And when you hear the announcement that they're coming on, like the hair started, you know, standing in the back of your neck.
These guys are monsters of men in your eyes. They're superheroes, like. So that's what you want it to be.
I was that kid. I mean, Nicky English gave me a medal below in the hall in Arfinnan.
Needing a bit of inspiration, will they consider a change? Nicky English! Right goal!
I can still, when I close my eyes, remember him walking through the door on the right. I know where I was sitting in the seat.
Oh, I mean, if I met Nick English today, I'd still be tongue-tied, you know? Like...
I really loved watching Jimmy Barry Murphy in the late 70s. There was an aura about him. There was a strut about Jimmy Barry Murphy.
Now, Jimmy Barry Murphy, like you just the name itself.
Jimmy Barry Murphy with the shot that's low, and it's a goal! Jimmy Barry Murphy, the scorer of the goal that will win it all Ireland.
Jimmy Barry Murphy, Tom Cashman, they were the people we were when we were down the pitch with the jumpers for the goals.
I wouldn't tell Anthony Daly this, but like, you know, to see him lifting the cup.
And Anthony Daly lifts the McCarthy Cup!
I went straight out into my back garden and I was dreaming of being those kind of players.
Their names would live forever. Christy Ring of Cork, or Laurie Maher of Kilkenny, Jimmy Doyle or John Doyle.
And Jimmy sends it over the bar for a point.
My idol was Tony O'Sullivan.
Mike Maloney.
Brian Whelan of Offaly.
Tony Wall.
Damien Fitzhenry in the goal.
Shawnee Leary, Charlie McCarthy, Gerard McCarthy.
DJs, people know them by their first name.
King Henry.
And now it's Joe.
And in a sense, as long as the tribe is there, the Lord is kept alive.
The dead who shall live forever, and the living who shall never die.
Every young lad wants to be the hero. And Cuchulainn, I suppose, was our first hero. It went that deep, really. There is no doubt about it that no person of my age went to school without hearing the story of Cuchulainn. You know, Setanta first, then how he got the name of Cuchulainn, and the status that gave him, because he was such a great hurler.
There's a saying that you would have heard in the 60s from rural areas at hurling matches, right? He hurled all before him. He attacked and he drove fellas out of the way and whatever else. And the story of Cuchulainn starts where Setanta is coming back from a hurling game. Here you had the imagery of this huge, mastiff, you know, huge dog with his jaws open. Just enough, he used the hurling and the ball as a weapon. He had coolness and calmness to hit the ball straight at the dog's mouth. He hurled all before him. It was all about accuracy and strength and power. That's how his name changed to the Hound of Cullen.
Hearing stuff like that, you know, it'd give you shivers down your spine.
You grew up kind of believing that that's the truth, you know.
That man exists, and he did exist.
The first mythological mention of a great hurler, Cuchulainn. Hurled all before him. You'd love to have him as centre back in your team.
The story of the origins of hurling is like the story of so many sports. It's where history bleeds away into myth and legend.
The puck fodder was always something that you really felt you were part of something that was carrying on a legacy or a history. It's an individual competition. You get elite sports people going up on a mountain where you get to stand and puck the ball across the terrain.
Next up now and going for his 10th senior title, a legend of puck fodder, Tipper Jordan, Brendan Cummins.
You follow the path of the yellow stones all across the mountain. Probably take 50 pucks to win it around the route, so there's an endurance part to the whole thing as well.
To go on kind of the route of Cuchulainn, way up to the top of the mountain, it's another dimension into the hurling folklore, so to speak.
The conditions are tough underfoot. You've drops of maybe 70, 80 feet down. You could go into a hole at any stage, but you know what? It's incredible.
The boys with the flags will normally cop where the ball is, but that one just the wind caught it and went a bit further. So the search is on now. I need to see if we can find the ball.
You just found it.
All right, boys. Found the ball. Was right after all. So. Players want to be part of history themselves. But behind it all, when I'm hitting that ball, I'm hitting it as ferocious as I can because I want to win the damn thing. So history, yes. Competitive nature, I would say, trumps all of that. Ended up with 54 pucks. 51, I'd say, to 50 will win it. 54 is good shooting. I'm happy with that, I have to say. Like.
The game that we know of hurling cannot just simply be projected back to Cuchulainn hitting a ball and a stick ahead of him and catching it before he hit the ground. What we are talking about here is a universal human experience. The story of people hitting a ball with a stick is a story which is told everywhere, from Iceland to Ethiopia to the Far East and across to the Aztecs. So where do we go with the origins of hurling?
Fáilte Roa Clare, and welcome here to Cork Public Museum. The makers of the objects upstairs, we don't know who they are, but I think that the spirit of them has hurled these balls through the centuries to arrive here. These balls are all found in bogs. The modern slitter is covered in leather, and these are cow hair, matted cow hair. We got them radiocarbon dated, and that was the fascinating thing. We actually realised that some of them were 800 years old. What you'll see also is a hurling stick found in a bog in Offaly. So a hurler 500 years ago was using that hurley.
What the Irish game of hurling is a modern variant of a theme which is written through history across millennia. What we're looking at here are kind of speckles. We're seeing slivers of history. But by the time you get to the 1700s, you can see from the travel journals that there are grand hurling matches being played in Ireland.
Strangely, the greatest, if you like, sponsors, you'd call them nowadays, of the game of hurling were the landlords. They were in the good territory, Cork, Tipperary, Kilkenny, stretching up to Laois, maybe down to Exeter, that area there, that was the hurling area.
It was a competition within the landlords themselves. They harnessed the skills that the local people had at hurling in order to give them a forum for that competition.
It was a sort of professionalism, if you like, or patronage. They were, if you like, in American terms, the NFL owners, or, you know, in soccer terms in Britain, they were the club owners at the time.
When we're thinking what a game of hurling looked like back 200 years and more, you had regional variants, hurling, Cammon or Commons, Shinny. The truth is probably that no two games probably look the same. We have to try and put ourselves in the context of the schoolyard. When lads are going out and they've got a ball and there's nobody refereeing it, and they just go out and play according to what the circumstances around them allow. It might just be who can get hold of the ball. But there was, on some level, a consciousness or awareness that they were playing an Irish game, and playing a game that had been played by their forefathers, and that they knew was the game of their people.
Hurling is part of what you are. I mean, I can go back to when Offaly first won their All-Ireland final in 1981, when I was a young lad.
Back come Offaly now. Delaney getting in to take a shot. They shot the tie, a shot that's good. And now there are only 3 points between them.
It was just a county on a high.
3 Galway men about to descend on him. Make that 4. In down to Brendan Birmingham. Birmingham inside to Flaherty. Flaherty is inside. And the ball is in and ready to go. Offaly are in the lead.
And I sat beside an old gentleman from Borough. Padjo Mooney was his name. He died not long afterwards. My dad had got him a ticket.
And the game is over and Offaly are the champions. Offaly are the All-Ireland champions.
And I can remember when the final whistle went, looking up at this man. The tears were streaming down his face. He was in floods of tears.
But now we have Offaly winning their first All-Ireland ever.
To see what it meant for his county to win the All-Ireland final, and it was floods of tears. And you knew you were part of it because you came from such a small area. You knew everybody on the pitch after, thousands coming on. You knew them by name, and you were a part of them and they were a part of you.
They did it the hard way because they looked as cold as Monday's dinner for so long in that game.
For 97 years we'd won nothing. We were nothing within the organisation. We had our bit of tradition and our bit of a culture within an 8-mile radius of Borough.
Now it's coming, there it is!
And to be up there in front of 75,000 odd people, been kingpins of hurling. And I remember after that thinking, this is it. My life is dedicated to playing hurling. And at a young age it was to play for Offaly and hopefully to play in an All-Ireland. And it consumed me.
It is a dream. You dream from, I suppose, when you're 5-6 years of age, from when you're watching All-Ireland finals, that one day maybe you'll play in Croke Park and win an All-Ireland medal, maybe score the winning point, score the winning goal.
And like, I mean, that was from the time you were 7 or 8, like, so that was there, like, your aim or your goal was, I want to hurl for Wexford and I want to hurl in Croke Park. I have to.
The dream, the dream. Croke Park for us now would be sacred sod.
That steep rake in Croker, the arena, it's like being in a Roman arena.
It's everything you've strived for all your life. Since you were a kid.
There's no doubt about it, the inter-county is the pinnacle. Playing in an All-Ireland final is probably the greatest achievement, from a sporting point in hurling.
It's the ultimate of the sport in the country. The opposition is fierce, the opposition is terrific.
It's so difficult to get to an All-Ireland final. It's so difficult to go back there.
It's not about someday anymore. What about this day?
To have a player from your parish, from your club, that you could watch on television, see him playing in an All-Ireland final in Croke Park. It gave everybody in the parish that feeling of belonging, really, that you belong to the hurling world.
If you're All-Ireland champions, it's an amazing feeling.
And the sense of achievement that gave you, we are from somewhere and we can achieve things. We do good things here.
It's like a drug, and like you just want it back, you want it back, you want it back.
There's something magical about that trophy.
The 1880s, Ireland was dead, post-famine. People without any hope. The people not only emigrated but died on the journeys. Horrendous time. A country that went from 8 million population way down to 4 and eventually to 3 point something. And then that decade brought the Gaelic League, brought the GA and brought the cooperative movement in the 90s. And Ireland, and a whole new hope, a whole new spirit came into it. And hurling was hugely vital in that time. And of course, there was a Clare man who was at the back of it, Michael Cusack.
You're talking here about a man whose passion was cricket, but also he was a nationalist.
He was transformed by the political situation, by the land war, to become driven to the idea of restoring hurling.
His idea was that you promoted things that represented Ireland and the Irish people and what was indigenous to them.
And what did he do? He called people together into the Phoenix Park near the front gates. There were just the 4 of them on that first Saturday afternoon in October, pucking a ball back and forward. And they came back the following Saturday, pressed others to join them, wrote about it in the newspapers, Saturday after Saturday, through October and November 1883, until Michael Cusack founded at a meeting the Metropolitan Hurling Club, the first modern hurling club. All country people living in Dublin. And then, almost like a dam burst moment, he knows of the hurling that is continually being played in East Galway. He arranges on Easter Monday, 1884, to take a train with his hurling club down to play the traditional hurlers of Clymer. They're met at the station by marching bands, by huge numbers of people who celebrate their arrival and walk them down to the fair green. The 2 teams line up in the middle of the field, 21 aside. The ball is held, the ball is thrown in, and there's timber everywhere, just clash and wallop. It's immediately clear that the Galway men have too much for them, and they drive up the field and they score a goal. The crowd rises in ecstasy. Cusack wasn't having it though. This is not the game. This is not hurling. Clear the field and we will show you how to play the game. They give a demonstration for 5 minutes and they took the train back to Dublin. Now, in a way, that's a harmless, meaningless anecdote, but there's something more fundamental about it, and it's something absolutely essential to what was about to happen. The newspapers the next day received letters from people who say it is time to remake the modern game of hurling and to lead its revival. And it is a kind of a signal moment in the evolution of playing with a stick and a ball in Ireland.
Oh yeah, that one there, then, was it?
This one up here,
Yeah.
Will we line them up?
Yeah.
Where is it? John, where do you want them?
With the Galway team at the far side.
Far side. Galway first to the far side, Tommy. Is this Galway?
Yeah.
Thurles, the home of hurling. It was here in 1884 that it all began at Hayes's Hotel. Thurles' Liberty Square also commemorates Dr. Croke, one of the first patrons of the GAA.
Our grandfather played in this, he was number 13.
He's my grandfather's grandfather, so the time they were called in to play to represent Tipperary.
The actual All-Ireland winners' medal of 1887.
Yeah, it was won by my grandfather, Mick Carroll from Drumban.
Good morning, everybody. This parade is to commemorate the playing of the 1887 All-Ireland final between Tipperary, represented by a Thurles team, and Galway, represented by a team from Lealik.
What the GAA sought to do after its establishment in 1884 was to spread the game to, as Michael Cusack said, a group of people for whom labour is their only reward.
It was mostly ground hurling that time. If you see the hurlers, I don't think you'll be able to rise a ball with them. The big long boss, very much like a hockey stick. Tremendously exciting at the time.
Maurice Davin, Cusack's great accomplice in the founding of the Gaelic Athletic Association, was charged with making rules for the game, and he did so, and they were published and spread everywhere. As it turned out, only 5 counties got to play in that first All-Ireland Championship. And Thurles were duly crowned the first All-Ireland champions. And what you had from that moment on is a structure. A territory-based structure which extends across the decades out in history in front of us.
Most county teams were represented by champion clubs. They wore the jerseys of the club team. There was no county jersey. Kilkenny won their first All-Ireland in 1904. They then go mad and win 7 All-Irelands between 1904 and 1913. By the end of that run of success, they're wearing the black and amber jerseys that we're all familiar with now, with Kilkenny emblazoned across the front. You see it in Cork. They have a big C on the front of their jersey. So this was a way of building a greater sense of community identity.
Cusack and the people who founded the GAA, they were cultural nationalists. I think that was the most significant part of nationalism that we've had. For me, from where I'm coming from, other people think differently, because What did it do? It's left us a lasting legacy. That's something to be proud of. And there was no guns, no barbed wire. But the revolution was a cultural revolution when it codified our games. Because if you lose your cultural identity, that makes such a difference to a nation.
I would actually believe there would never have been in 1916, if there wasn't in 1880s, that the whole pride, national pride and local pride was restored in Ireland by whatever happened in the 1880s.
When I was young, I suppose 4 years of age, my father was playing for the Tullaroan senior team. They were very successful at the time. 94, we were lucky enough to win a senior county final, which was massive for such a small club. There's only 600 or 700 people in the parish. We've one church, we have 2 pubs, we have 1 shop. There's no roads going through it to lead anywhere else. If you're going out to Tullaroan Road, you're probably going to Tullaroan. We had 2 guys from Tullaroan on the team of the century, Paddy Phelan and Laurie Marr, and like that makes us so proud because you're talking about the top 15 in the whole of Ireland in 100 years. I spent all my days in that field with my father, going down to every single training session. That's where you learn the game, that's where you learn all the skills. You might see a guy catching a ball out of the sky and that's what you want to go do the next training session.
Helped by Paddy Stapleton, the entire Tipperary full-back. What about that for a catch from Tommy Walsh?
Just look at Tommy Walsh, look at the bravery. He's not a big man, flying through the air, diagonal ball straight to Henry Shefflin. 2 of the greatest players on this world of all time combined there.
Tullaroan absolutely gave me everything.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't. You can't explain what parish means to you if you're from a place. Because you're representing your own home and where you grew up, that sense of pride is pretty hard to replicate.
Your club jersey is the most important jersey that you'll ever put on. That's your parish jersey, that's your family's jersey, that's your community's jersey.
You know, we had the school, we had the church, and we had the GA field, and the GA field was probably the epicentre of coming together, if you like.
Most improved player here. Man the match there, I lived, yeah. Actually, they turned out very well, the most improved player. She liked getting an all-star with the star.
Man, Tim, follow him, Tim. Block it, Dylan. There you are, Dylan, pick it up. Pick it up, Dylan, burst your way out.
It's not just about the game is what brings you there, but the experience of learning the game is very formative for you in lots of other ways as well, in terms of making friendships. You have that strong sense of being part of a collective.
Come on, help him out, he's on the ground, lads.
Full concentration. No fella asleep looking at the crowd waving at his man. Full concentration, okay?
And you have that strong sense of not wanting to let the side down, like.
Lads, we're in a battle. We're in a serious battle here. It's a point apiece, right? We want 100% in the second half, right? Kyle and Timothy, I want you to thunder into the game now. You want to put your bodies in the way and thunder into the game, right? Because, lads, we need this, right? We need this, all right?
I mean, whoever invented the crest for the parish, I mean, I don't know that they had any idea what they were after stumbling on.
If you're playing for your club, you're ready to die for your club.
You're doing it for the area that you grew up in. You're doing it for the people around. And you know that they appreciate it. They're all there at the match.
Your neighbours are the first you beat, and everything else follows.
It would hurt so much to have your neighbours 5 miles out the road beating you.
We have the inter-county game, we have the high-profile games, but if you love it, you love playing hurling, you love getting out there and expressing yourself, well, you'll always go back and your club will always be there to let you express yourself.
You're playing for what matters to you. You know what's in your heart, and that's your club.
Hurling with your county, you make friends with guys and you're invited to their weddings. I think the people you play with in your club, I think they're the people who will carry you to your grave. They'll always be there at the end. They're part of you.
By the First World War, the GAA was in a position of tremendous strength. Rules are completely overhauled. The adjustment of the scoring system, the old side posts are removed. You see the gradual reduction of team sizes from 21 to 17 to 15 aside, and that transforms the game. It's more enjoyable to play, it's more enjoyable to watch. The GAA itself purchased Croke Park and secured for themselves a permanent headquarters. The crowds were increasing at its matches. The number of clubs was increasing.
As media changed, there were kind of the creation of stars, particularly the introduction of photographs, firstly, to newspapers.
You start to see photographs of the action, building up a greater sense of the occasion and the spectacle. The journalists are writing in tremendous detail, giving a blow-by-blow account of the matches, setting the scene, the colour. So suddenly players' celebrity is actually being promoted beyond their own county boundaries.
In the 1920s, cigarette cards with soccer players were huge. And the similar thing was done with hurlers. And you get this culture, this creation of stars in every sport. It transcends sport, the notion that there is a great.
Rory Maher, one of the greatest sportsmen of his time, certainly of this time too. He was a genius. He could catch a ball like the Tommy Walsh ball that's talked about today. I'm Dick Welch of the church, Tullaroan, County Kilkenny. I'm just 100 years of age. I'm 99 and a half. I went to nearly every All-Ireland. The first one I saw was in 1931. That was Cork and Kilkenny. I had a hat and a badge and a black and amber cap. Kilkenny and Cork were the teams of the day. Both of them had the best hurlers in Ireland.
Rory Maher was a mythical character, great stylist, won a good few All-Irelands. They were in every county.
Judy Collin, he was a Cork man, Judy Collin.
Now he was to Cork what Rory Maher was to Kilkenny. and captain of the Cork hurling team.
There was some hard demon there that time. You'd have marks on your body for, I suppose, 4 or 3 weeks after. You'd have to play both man and ball that time.
It was the match of the time.
This year it looks as if the fight will be tougher than ever. It's a first half of fine, robust hurling, packed with thrills that send the crowds into a frenzy.
Hugh Collin, he was wonderful that day. He scored a point off his knees.
And for those that weren't there, we're all imagining that he was 125 yards from the goal when he was on bended knee and sailed it open.
That took beating, I'm telling you. That took beating.
The hard-fought, high-speed match resulted in a draw, so a replay will be necessary.
The 1931 All-Ireland final marks a particular high point for the game. The All-Ireland final goes to 3 games, and the crowd builds with each game.
The greatest game Rory Marr played was the second day in 31.
The Most Reverend Dr. Harty started the game up and then made good his escape.
But he got a belt in the ribs from Judy Coughlin. They were in a tussle for the ball. And Marr put up his hand. He was knocked out and he played on with his 2 ribs broke. 2 ribs broke.
Some 40,000 spectators witnessed the struggle, which was one of the most thrilling in the history of the game. The score was even.
He didn't play the next game. He was in pain, he wasn't able to hold it all.
By the time the 3rd match comes along, as the amount of media coverage built up around the game, there was an appetite for news about sport. And the newspapers are feeding that appetite. Some of the newspapers are running coupon competitions and offering cash prizes for readers who can predict the final score or the attendance at the match.
It became something to be at those games. It's this testimony to the madness of crowds.
All the rain, and there was some at Croke Park, couldn't damp the ardour and enthusiasm of the huge crowds in the All-Ireland hurling final.
A record crowd packs Dublin's great stadium for the big day of the Irish hurling year.
It was really the one Kilkenny should have won. They should have won. And they got beaten.
The 1931 All-Ireland final was a remarkable trilogy of matches between Cork and Kilkenny. The Irish Independent commissions one of its writers to write a feature piece around the game. She wrote that she has rarely seen so native a scene in her own country. One would have loved the whole world to see it.
People were drawn to this social occasion. And that's something that has never been lost. And this essential notion of coming together is something that survives in every year since.
At the heart of it all, it's about identification.
Not just claiming your own identity or accepting the identity that you've somehow inherited, that you've been born into. It's the claimed identity.
I wasn't born in Cork, I wasn't raised in Cork. I came from a unique family, per se. My dad is Irish, but my mum is from Rotuma in the Fiji Islands. I lived in Sydney, Australia for 8-9 years. Put it in the context of a young kid growing up in Sydney, Australia, who's playing rugby league, Aussie rules, okay? My dad tells me that he's from Hurling, but like, to be honest now, Hurling to me at that stage might as well be like in between Jupiter and Saturn. I'm walking around in the lovely sunny climate that is Sydney in the western suburbs. I'm in my shorts, sandals, I'm eating Vegemite. I came to Cork in 1988. At that stage, I was 11 years of age. And I mean this with the greatest respect. I found it hard to get kind of identity or acceptance because of my different looks and my different background. I mean, I jokingly look back, they couldn't even get my mum's country right. They'd always refer to, that guy, Sean O'Halpine, isn't his mum from the Philippines or something like that? So I kind of don't like hurling from the start. I kind of resented a small bit because basically I kind of feel like that the parents were punishing me coming in here. Like, above religion, the only language that people in Cork speak is hurling. You soon realise when you go around the corridors of the North Mon, you see winning photographs of past teams. The 20s, 30s, the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. So not alone that, locally, they were all going, practicing and playing their hurling games. And then there I was, like, stuck in the middle of the green with no one to play with. So I kind of have no option but to, look, if you want to hang around with your kids, you got to do what they're doing.
It's against the wall, come on. You Hurley. Look what Zach is doing now. Well, Zach, show him the ready position. Right-handed top, Zach. No. I'm left-handed. You left-handed. Oh, good man. Sorry about that, Zach. My apology. Watch what Zach is doing. Everybody, show me the ready position.
Well, I suppose, you know, it is a disadvantage if you're a late starter in hurling. Now, a late starter is anybody after 6 years of age, really, in hurling.
What's hurling? I mean, hurling was just a desperately difficult game to master.
Some guys make it look so easy, but at the end of the day, it's really, really difficult.
When you throw up the ball the first couple of times, you generally just hit fresh air.
And it's all about your wrists.
Like that, no. And you're going like that, then. Okay? All right, good man. Get it? And the other way. Brilliant, fantastic. And the next one up. And move on to the next tire.
I start off, naturally enough, you know, kind of a fella that hasn't played hurling, like kind of at 11 years of age, you're red raw useless. But to me, it kind of didn't matter whether I was good or bad at the game. It was just like that. I'm just with my mates, you know. My life in Ireland changed when I started playing hurling and I started representing the local J club in Fairhill, because as soon as I wore the black and amber jersey playing hurling, the community accepted me for one of them. So overnight, I went from, isn't he the guy where the mum is from, the Philippines or Vietnam, to, yeah, that's the kid that's from Parkdale, Parklands, Commons Road. He plays with us under 12s.
Sean ó go helpí agus ó Ileáin Fiji a bhátha siúd.
And even though hurling has meant a lot of things to me since, but I always refer to that point.
Will you be his buddy, so, yeah? Okay. No, you'll be on the same thing, so you'll be his buddy, okay?
Because it ties in with the greatest human need.
Let's against the wall, come on!
It's to be loved, and it's to be accepted. Are we gonna win, lads?
Hello everybody and welcome.
There were outlier players in the past who came along and had something that was different, that hadn't been seen before.
Everybody was talking about Mackie.
Ring and Mackie, which of them was the greatest?
But also to Mr. Hurling himself, Christy Ring, having won 8 All-Ireland medals.